and welcome to a brand new Five Heart podcast. I'm your host, Greg Mahochko, surrounded by my betters. On this side, the newest addition to the Five Heart show, and you know him from a not forgotten, but show from the past, I suppose. The Big Red Cobcast, Ryan Tweedy. Hello, Ryan.
Hi, guys.
And this guy, this guy over here, I'll get it right eventually. He needs no introduction. He is the founder and fearless leader of CoordinationCom, Mr. John Dam Johnston. Hello, John.
Hi, how are you doing? It's a beautiful Thursday night for the NFL draft.
It is. I just found out.
Why the hell did the Packers take that son of a bitch from Iowa? Why did they do that, Greg?
To cause you internal confliction.
Yeah, it's just not a pick you make there. I don't know. Move on.
I don't know. The Steelers picked up some help on the offensive line, so that was.
Are you guys talking about the draft?
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
Yeah, the draft. Did you watch any of the draft, Ryan?
No, I don't give a shit.
I didn't think so.
I was a Houston Oilers fan, and then when the Houston Oilers became, like, once Warren Moon left, and then McNair left, and then they went to the...
Then the Oilers left.
Titans. It was all, like, I was out. The only way they'll ever get me back is if they either Nebraska gets a pro team or the Houston Texans buy the rights to the Oilers and they become the Oilers again.
Wow.
That'd be good. That'd be legacy, you know.
They'll never do it.
No.
They tried to do it and they said no.
So the first overall pick in the 2023 draft was Bryce Young, the quarterback from Alabama, to the Carolina Panthers. And the second pick in the draft was C.J. Stroud to, oddly enough, the Houston Texans. But players have been selected from Illinois, Northwestern, Iowa State, and of course, Iowa, all before Nebraska. So think about that. Think about where we are and how far we've fallen.
The Northwestern dude was apparently not at the draft, even though he was a top 10 pick. He was having his draft party at a pizza place and didn't allow any media.
That'd be the way to do it. Why do we need all the pomp and circumstance, you know?
Because it's your moment.
Maybe he's just a low-key guy.
My guess.
Well, there's a lot to get into this week on the show. We want to extend a hearty welcome to everybody joining us live. We realize that the new time is going to throw some of you off, and that's why a few minutes into this we have so far nine participants. That we know that number. Oh, we're in double digits now. Okay, I feel better. But it's been a busy week for Nebraska athletics, and we're going to touch on, of course, football in the spring game, volleyball. But, John, I, at least for a couple minutes, want to talk about baseball.
Why?
Because they finally beat University of Nebraska Omaha.
Well, that's good.
And then they lost to South Dakota State or something.
Yeah.
So not the best stretch in the middle of the season for the Huskers on the ball field, being swept by Iowa.
Can I ask you guys a question about baseball?
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead.
Why do we call it a sport?
You know, technically Hemingway said there's only 3 sports, so baseball's in those non-sport area too,
I think.
along with football.
Oh, football? Oh, he's wrong about that.
Well, Hemingway said there's only 3 sports. What was it? Boxing, fighting, and
bullfighting, motor racing, and mountaineering.
That's it.
All the rest are merely games.
Yeah, so, like, people do it drunk. It's like bowling. Bowling is not a sport. It's a recreational activity.
But it depends how you do it. You know what? Mr. Tweedy, those guys in college can now throw 100-mile-an-hour fastball. So I think that quantity, you know what I mean? Have you ever had a 100-mile ball thrown at you?
No.
Of all the balls you've had to deal with in your life, has any one of them ever come at 100 miles an hour? Probably not. So I think that would make it a sport.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I just think if you can do it drunk, A dude threw a no-hitter tripping on acid. I'd like to see someone. Play football tripping on acid and see how that goes for him. Like, do just a kick return while tripping on acid.
Welcome
Ellis,
back,
by the
welcome back, Ryan Tweedy.
I looked that up. I hadn't heard that story. 47 years ago. I gotta do math. 53 years ago. In 1970, Doc Ellis
Dude, you've never heard that before?
No.
Never heard that? Oh, there's a video about it that is phenomenal, where he recounts the story and it's like half animated, and he's talking about what he's seeing. Who is Matt Hansen?
Well, Greg, who's Matt Hansen?
Matt's one of our regular Chatterfields.
Cool.
And I believe, if memory serves me right, he lives in the Great Cornhusker State, particularly in the Chadron area. And for those of you who are asking what the hell we're talking about, Matt is essentially quoting Tweedy, saying, "Why is baseball a sport? Play football on acid? Yikes."
Hi, Matt.
So,
I'll be honest with you. I am not a Major League Baseball fan, and my whole family really hates baseball. But I do, and I like college baseball because I don't know. I just think it's you can get closer to the players. You can get closer to the.
You know why?
To the teams. Why?
Because nobody's watching it, so there's more available room to get near the players.
No, that's not true.
The people that are at the games are watching it, and sometimes that's all that counts. I mean, I don't watch Major League Baseball on TV. I honestly don't know why you would. I think baseball at a park or baseball on a radio are pretty, they're not bad. Plus, what it does, Mr. Tweedy, is give us something to talk about besides football.
Right.
Okay.
Fred says, I also agree with Tweedy. I don't get baseball. It's a thing I drink beer at and have a bratwurst during the College World Series.
See how that works?
Yeah, I get it.
It's like fishing for me. If I can drink a beer at it, it's a good time.
Is it a sport?
Fishing?
Yeah.
It's an activity.
Okay. Agreed.
Okay.
Do they have softball leagues out in your neck of the woods, Tweedy?
California?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, just checking.
They have everything here. They have cricket out here.
Do they really? I didn't know that.
Well, yeah, that's
more NorCal, but yeah, they do. I mean, they probably do have it here too.
I still remember. Can we wax nostalgic for a minute?
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, sure.
I just want to credit, and look, I've said this on the record on the 5 Heart podcast before. I love the Big Red Cobcast, and some episodes, obviously, like the weekend of a game, they're not so, they don't have that longevity, but there are a lot of great interviews, great conversations locked into the archives of the Big Red Cobcast. But I like the production element as a fellow audio engineer from back in the day and putting together elements of broadcasts. I really liked some of the intros that you guys had. I don't know if you worked on most of those, and but just really good stuff. Like from Van Nuys, California, things like that. So
no, a good friend of mine is a producer at I forget, basically iHeartRadio, but it's one of the biggest Premier Digital or something. I forget what it's called, but he made those for us, and then the Killigans made one for us.
I remember that one.
And my buddy Nick did one for us that everybody hated.
It was the Big Red Cobcast is where I heard of the Killigans and the Cornhusker song that they have.
Yeah.
So
they're dope. People are shitting all over that song, and I just don't get it, man. It's a great song.
Maybe there will be some comments in that. I enjoy the song. I enjoy that style of music. Dropkick Murphys, etc. So I'm you know what? If the Killigans ever made it this far east, I'd probably go try to check them out. So
I don't think they're doing tours. I don't think they're quite there yet.
Well, someday.
They're good guys, though. I've talked to them several times.
Fred asks his weekly question, what's Greg drinking? I've had a long day, so went from local beer to Belgian beers to some odd smoked barrel aged vodka. It'll be too frosted to Uber before too long. I'm still drinking the same I was drinking last week, Fred, which is the Sam Adams Alpine Lager. So, got a couple.
Wait a minute. What? Are you wearing a Texas Longhorn shirt?
This?
Yeah.
No.
That's what it looks like to me.
Well, read what it says.
I can't read it. It's a tiny little webcam photo of me, for God's sakes.
It says beef jerky.
Oh, okay.
It's Jurgensen.
Yeah, that's different. That's not a Texas Longhorn shirt.
Jeez, John.
Okay, fine.
That's my thing. If I find out players make a shirt, I'll buy their shirt.
Okay.
So if anybody knows of any players making shirts, I'll buy it. I'd rather do that than go buy an Adidas shirt.
Fair point.
I'm wearing an Adidas shirt right now.
Wrong, I got Adidas shirt.
We got a few more. Baseball complaints, I suppose we'll call them. And this from Joel Tilson. I don't like the ping of the aluminum bats in college baseball. I think
it's
not
as bad as it used to be.
And it's
more
just
composite.
It's just you're right, but it's just cost effective to have aluminum bats rather than wooden bats, right? For these programs.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. And then Vince Watson, I think Tweedy might agree with this one. Baseball died when they quit allowing steroids.
Yeah.
Wow.
Steroids is really the way to go for pretty much everything. I just don't understand.
The old Bill Romanowski approach?
Well, I mean, I just don't get it. Take this, it makes you better, makes your ball smaller, makes you faster, makes you stronger.
And let's face it, for a lot of these people...
What's wrong? Everything about that is a positive.
A lot of these guys probably shouldn't be having children anyway, so smaller balls is probably...
I don't think that even affects your ability to have children. I'm just saying, who in the world is like, you know what I want is bigger balls? My balls are humongous. I would take steroids alone just to shrink my balls. No other reason. If they're like, you know what, it's not going to make you stronger, it's not going to make you faster, nothing. But your balls will be the size of the volume of your balls will be cut in half. I'm in like Flynn.
While we're in the neighborhood.
Well, there you go then. Yeah.
You asked for it, guys.
I can't.
We did. We're gonna have to get used to this.
I can't believe I'm going here. But look, if you're a listener of the Big Red Copcast, or we're a listener of the Big Red Copcast, when you're in the neighborhood of Tweedy's balls, you have to mention the prolapse anus.
Oh, what do you want me to answer about it? Do I have one?
I mean, what they said, that your butthole fell out or something?
Yeah, they say my butthole fell out because what happened was I couldn't race Joe because I tore the connective tissue between my ass and my other ass. I don't know. I don't remember. I'm not a doctor. I pulled the connective tissue. And so Joe said I wouldn't race him because my asshole fell out, which isn't true. And then my asshole is perfectly intact. Glad if anybody wants to DM me and I'll send you a pic. You just have to ask for it. I'm not going to do it. You have to ask for it. That way I have proof you asked for it. And then my connective tissue did heal, and I beat the shit out of Joe in a race because he fell over in the first 5 feet because he's 80 years old.
I remember this.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Fred says, this is Fred. I'm quoting, direct quote. Fred says, quote, I watched John's butthole fall out several times the last few years. It was painful.
Well,
John, you want to tell us about that experience?
No, not
Okay.
really.
John stayed with me one time for like 5 days. And he came out in the morning with his shirt off, and he has extremely hairy nipples. To the point where I gave him a razor, and he refused to trim them.
You guys got to get together this past week after the spring game, did you not?
Mm-hmm.
We did.
Well, I want to know more about that. But Cornborn Mike says, I knew we'd be talking ball games here, but ... Laugh crying emoji. So always fun. What'd you guys just, obviously we'll talk about the spring game. That's top of the headline and one of the biggest headlines of the week. What'd you guys do? Just grab a quick bite or some coffee, or I don't know. Either you guys drink coffee. I know John doesn't drink, so.
He snuck into my hotel and ate a free breakfast.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no,
I did. We went to I went to the Embassy Suites, and when I came downstairs, Tweedy, I noticed one of the hotel workers was watching me. And I was kind of nervous. That's why I said, do I need to pay for this? And you're like, just go get a breakfast. And this guy kept watching me. And when I got up to go get coffee, he followed me over to get the coffee. And I thought, okay, this guy's going to give me some hell about eating for free at Embassy Suites. And he walks over to me and he leans over and he goes, I love your YouTube channel. What did you think of the spring game? And then I talked to him for a bit and I thought, okay, well, nobody gave a shit that I had free biscuits and gravy.
There you go.
There's no way they knew.
It's a good heart food. It's a heart-healthy food, biscuits and gravy. Yeah,
no shit. You probably shouldn't be eating biscuits. I didn't even think about that.
I never touch that stuff unless I stay in a hotel, and then it's biscuits and gravy.
I feel bad because I feel like hotel biscuits and gravy is probably not the best biscuits and gravy you could have.
It's, I've traveled the world, and if you can have... No, it isn't. It isn't. It's usually just like, okay, this is the way Mom used to make it, runny and not meatful.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to use that as just a little bit of a buffer from what we were talking about. Obviously, baseball winning, or I'm sure losing 4 of the last 5, and then it's Minnesota this weekend.
Yep.
But I want to talk about Memorial Stadium, and more specifically about that volleyball team selling out Memorial Stadium in just under 48 hours. And I have a graphic. Can I share the graphic, John?
Oh, okay.
Are you nervous about the graphic? I mean, it's just a graphic.
I'm wondering why you're asking me.
I don't know. I feel like it's my job to ask permission. So ESPN tweeted, of course, Nebraska volleyball retweeted. Atmosphere is going to be rocking at Husker V-Ball. Sold out tickets to its August volleyball match in just 48 hours. And 82,900 fans will be on hand to watch what's going to be a record attendance for volleyball. Tweedy, I don't know how much you follow volleyball, but certainly the fact that it's Nebraska's most competitive sport at this point, I feel like, but quite a feat, right, for volleyball day at Memorial Stadium.
Yeah, I don't know. Isn't 93,000 a sellout though? That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think in this case, they're doing stuff to the stadium right now where there's a whole bunch of renovation going on. So like when we were watching the spring game, the east side, walk. All of the second level club seats and everything, nobody was in those because they're currently being something's being done to them.
Are they playing a volleyball game at Memorial Stadium?
Yes, sir.
Is it an important game?
No, sir.
No, it's like exhibition. They're having Nebraska teams play there. So like UNO, maybe Wayne State. I don't think Creighton is involved in this, are they?
They don't get an invitation. They're not worthy.
Not a Nebraska school.
And then they're going to have like a artist play, like a Taylor Swift is going to play.
It's not. It's not Taylor Swift.
No, it's Weird Al.
That. All right. I think you just got a lot more attention from the viewers. No, but it'll be fun. It'll be good. But going back to what you said about making the changes at Memorial Stadium, they're moving the tunnel walk. They were talking, I think Trev was saying last week that the tunnel walk entrance for the spring game is going to be the last time that it comes from that corner. I think it's going to be the other corner on that side. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's going to be the north east corner, I guess. I don't know. There's so much. Tweety, did you go down there?
No, because
oh my God, there is so much construction going on down there. Everything's
Yeah.
getting moved around.
It
with
was too
this
cold.
giant. It was Remember last time you were on, you said you were going to take your son to the game, and we
I
said
was.
yeah,
My
no.
wife wouldn't let me. It was too cold.
Yeah.
And
It
I really
was-
wanted to watch the game with him. So, so yeah,
You
so
will
I
ha-
watched in the not Roosevelt, the Embassy Suites.
You will have years ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Owen says, in regards to the attendance, he says he believes they're talking about selling more tickets to make it around 90,000. I don't know. I haven't heard that. They might have standing room only type of tickets.
I think that the thing is that around 95,000 is the top women's attendance. In other words, for any women's sport is
Gotcha.
around 95,000. So what'd they sell? 82.9?
82.9.
Keep in mind, people that are in the stadium are going to count for attendance too. So if you bring in, I don't know, 1,000 band members or some damn thing, or 9,000 whatever members, media members, that you're gonna break this record.
Fred Sacco says, in regards to the post-event entertainment, it's going to
Fred
be
Sacco stole my line. Sorry.
going to be
That was
John
gonna be my
Johnston.
answer. No,
and
the
the-
next one up. That was gonna be my answer to Joel Tilson.
Oh, okay. We'll get there. John Johnston and the Sidetrack Sidewinders performing with a lot of panties hitting the stage. That's the granny panties. And then to that end, yes, Joel Tilson says, what's the next improvement for Memorial Stadium? And then, Tweety, I'll let you read it.
Oh, Fred Sacco already said it. He said hiring Matt Rhule. He beat me to it. He's
That's
right, though. It's a huge. Hiring Matt Rhule was such a steal, I think. I think he's going to be everything that we thought Scott Frost was going to be. He's Scott Frost with receipts. That's what he is.
With maturity?
Sure, but also with receipts, which I think is the most important thing. Like, we thought Scott Frost was going to do so good after 1 year, but there's no proof. But with Matt Rhule, he's done it time and time again, like twice
gotcha.
now.
Track record.
They're less, I just think that Matt Rhule's I mean, and maybe I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid. Maybe I'm a piece of shit idiot, but I really do think he's going to be.
Both could be true.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, let's talk about the spring game then. Tweety, did you actually get a chance to watch it?
Most of it. I was in a family reunion with 60 people.
Ooh.
I kind of watched the play, like the, you find on YouTube where they cut out all the bullshit and it's just the whole game in 38 minutes or whatever. I watched most of that today.
I was out of town, so I had it DVR'd, and for whatever reason, like the DVR started on time, but there was no option to extend it, so I really only got 3/4. I still feel like I got, I don't know, the important parts. John, you were there.
Yeah.
Aside from being cold, what was the buzz or the energy in Memorial Stadium as far as new staff, a lot of new faces on the sidelines and on the field?
It was fun. I mean, you start out with the new Herbie thing, and I really don't. New Herbie really doesn't do much for me by himself.
He looks like a Beverly Hills housewife now. He looks like he got cheek implants.
Oh, he does. That is the weird part. I don't get the cheek implants either. I really didn't.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, why couldn't you just give us the Herbie we've been asking for? Why'd you have to make it all weird? Just give us the fat farmer Herbie, not the fat farmer Herbie that doesn't want to age. You know what I mean? Don't give us fat farmer Herbie.
It was a good entrance. It was fun. And it started from there, and then you had the first play with the fullback trap, and then you had Frank Solich. I think people had a lot of fun, even though it was windy and cold. And put it this way, the atmosphere the year before was watching touch football, and honest to God, everybody in the stadium, there was no energy. The biggest cheer was a punt. I mean, it was dead. Everybody was like, oh my God, we still have to convince ourselves this is going to work for another few months. They didn't know it, but they knew it. They did. I think people knew it, but they just didn't want to go, be the first one to go, oh God, this is a failure, to stop. But they didn't. And this year it was, people, what we saw was Jeff Sims become a starter, I think.
Because of the circumstances, I don't know if there's a way that Jeff Sims doesn't start. Because if Casey Thompson is healthy in this offseason and no surgery and he's not rehabbing and recovering, he's participating, you have a really clear quarterback battle. But you don't. So really you have Jeff Sims as the front runner. And I agree. I think it was you or Todd who said it Monday night in the Monday Night Therapy. It's Jeff Sims' job until he gets hurt, and then it's Casey Thompson. Now, it'd be nice to go.
Why are we saying that?
I think it's because it's new staff, new system that's implemented. And, I mean, this is just me. I may be way off base.
No, I hear it from a lot of people. I just don't. I mean, I like Casey Thompson. I like Jeff Sims so far. I like them both.
I think the thing that I would say to that question is coming into the game, I thought Jeff Sims was going to be a completely inaccurate, YOLO bomb wacko. And I think he threw the ball well. He got the ball out fast. And I think he just adds more. If you can have a guy who can throw on the run, can get the ball out quick, depending on our offensive line.
So sure-footed on the running, though. Like, I was more impressed with his passing than I was his ability to get outside. Like, he's not the next Tommy Frazier.
No, he's not. That's true. But at the same time, they're trying to learn an offense. He's not even really
the next Taylor Martinez, if we're being honest. Like, he can pass better.
He could be the next Jamal Lord.
Maybe, because Jamal Lord can pass. Well, no, but that's the thing. He passes. Like, I guess my point is that I think people are pitching him as this running quarterback, right? And if Taylor Martinez could just, he was like the movie Zoolander, the guy that couldn't turn left. You know how Ben Stiller couldn't turn left in Zoolander? I feel like that was basically what Taylor Martinez was. He could go in a straight line, but the second he had to do anything laterally, he was just
breaking his own ankles.
Yeah, he's just kind of a dummy, right?
Have you been waiting 3 years to use the Zoolander thing?
No, I just thought of it now.
Wow. Okay.
All right, so we have some comments about the quarterbacks. Joel Tilson says, "Quick and simple, Sims looks promising." I don't think anybody's going to argue with that. Josh Hansen says, "We're going to need them both, and neither have finished a season." There's some truth and logic to that. Fred says the quarterback thing is a reverse of what he thought. He figured Thompson, even without the reps, then gets hurt, and then Sims, but we will see. Following up, Josh with another one says, what was nice about Sims, his running was how tough he ran and his size. He will, in theory, be more durable. We'll see. And then we'll get to we got more about Herbie and the curse, etc.
The curse.
We'll get there.
Okay. Oh, we'll get there. Okay.
Yeah. I don't disagree with what Joel says. Big Ten is tough for quarterbacks.
Ohio State doesn't seem to have that problem.
Ohio State has offensive line.
So it's not that the Big Ten is tough for quarterbacks. It's the lack of an offensive line in the Big Ten is tough for quarterbacks, right?
I think it can be a combination of the two. I think that the Big Ten defensive line mentality can make things difficult for quarterbacks, and if you have an inept offensive line, you have what Nebraska's had the last 6 years, which is injury-plagued seasons.
Well, Ohio State had who was it? Cardell Jones was like the third string quarterback going into the national title game or whatever it was for Ohio State a few years ago. And then, come on. I just forgot my other beat up quarterbacks.
JT Barrett.
No, but not Ohio State. I mean, there's been, the Big Ten can. I think
Denard
it's a physical
Robinson
league.
got injured by us. That's why we won that game.
Oh, Joe Bosserman, huh? How about that one? How about that reference?
Yeah.
Bring Joe Bosserman in because Braxton Miller gets hurt playing us.
All right. Do we want to get into? We got some things here to clean up about the mascots. Let's get with this. Let's go back to New Herbie. Fred says, I agree with Tweedy. The eyes and cheeks look like a hot-to-trot West Omaha soccer mom.
I agree. I mean, I don't know. I know what he means by that. I've never seen a West Omaha soccer mom, but
I bet Fred's seen a few. So, and then Josh says, didn't mind the cheeks, but why are his bibs all baggy? I wasn't paying attention that close. And then, hey, we didn't just get New Herbie and a new coaching staff out on the field. By God, we got a Gatling gun. And cool. Cornborn Mike says New Herbie should have stuffed Lil Red into that Gatling gun and shot him out of Memorial Stadium.
Wow.
They brought the Wiener Schlinger to where was I? The Embassy Suites, and we're shooting it up in the air like that.
Yeah,
and it was very scary, and I didn't like it.
Why?
Cause man, I had a baby and like
oh okay.
And there's like just
you thought it was gonna explode
everywhere and fucking like they're just like willy-nilly like shooting it. People are like leaning over the balcony. It's like, haven't you guys seen those videos from Russia where it's crazy, man. I don't like hot dogs. It was bananas, dude. I didn't like it. Anyway,
you don't like hot dogs? You don't like
hot dogs are fine. But you know what you could have done? You could have just handed out hot dogs. Or you could have thrown no, don't even do that. Like I don't know, man. I just didn't like the idea of shooting a hot dog gun.
Oh my God.
You're
a
full on
father
parent now.
You are a father now.
Hey,
welcome
man,
to the
tribe. I'm telling you right now, if they would have hit my son with a hot dog, I'd have leg kicked the shit out of him.
I can do that.
Leg kicks.
All right, so I want to know in the comments because John is, I'm not going to say he's a Lil Red apologist, but I think for me and John, why do you specifically forget everything you've read on the internet, but why do you specifically hate Lil Red? While you answer that question, I'm going to read some more of these comments because Joel Tilson says the Solich curse is over? ? And Vince Watson says the curse lives on. Lil Red was not sacrificed. Now, to refute that claim, Owen Walker is in and says, yes, Coach Solich said he came back and ended the curse. Go Big Red. I don't know if that was actually... who in the media asks Frank Solich that question? Like how does that topic get brought up?
It's the same ones that don't ask any meaningful questions to Scott Frost for 5 years. It's the same media.
Well,
that is true.
All right,
it's on the minds of the fans, and I think Frank Solich has a decent enough sense of humor that he took that on pretty well.
I thought so too, actually.
Cornborn Mike says it's nothing to do with hating Lil Red. I just like seeing mascots beating the shit out of each other, and that's fair. I mean, I appreciate that. And Vince Watson says Lil Red's a creepy blow-up doll.
Well, I know a Little Red that's sleeping with me tonight. You know what I'm saying? I stole that from South. I don't want anybody to accuse me of being a joke thief.
Number one, he can bounce on his head, and no other mascot in college football can do that. And number two, what do you have against blow-up dolls? That's what I would say.
John, do you know that he's not bouncing on his head, that it's just a guy standing and flipping the thing upside down and then jumping like normal?
Why do you have to ruin everything for me?
John Hanson gets it.
Hey, speaking of blow-up dolls, Jerry Springer died today.
He did.
Age of 79.
I like how everybody's like the guy from the Jerry Springer show and not like the mayor of Cincinnati.
Right. Exactly.
I feel like one of them was a longer, career span. All right. Terrible, just terrible. Says runs us from the Gatling gun seems more fitting.
I think there's a certain aerodynamics that you can't tell me that the guys that put that whole Gatling gun together didn't go out in Memorial Stadium and shoot all kinds of shit out of it. You know what I mean? I bet they tried runses and the runses just exploded coming out of the barrels.
Yeah,
That's possible.
The hot dogs, if you're thinking hot dogs, they probably did. Unless they probably said, let's wrap the runses in T-shirts and shoot those, and then they'd, come out, and then somebody in the athletic department said, that's too expensive.
Yeah, you get one or the other, not both.
And the Runza people said, if you shoot them like that, they won't see our logos. But you know, they had to shoot a whole bunch of different stuff out of one of those.
They had
things,
to test everything out, right?
When they were screwing around with it.
It's not. Look, I want to kind of piggyback on what Josh says. Josh says that runses usually explode out of the barrel a few hours after the game. I was going to say, it's not the runses exploding in transit to you. It's on the back end, pun intended. All right, so we actually have a legit question about the game for those of you who watched, specifically you, John.
Yeah.
You remember how the game opened up, right, John?
Yes.
A fullback trap.
Well,
yeah, and then they carried
watched the game.
Well, you know what I mean. Then they carried the game ball over to Frank Solich and handed it off to the old ball coach. Vince Watson says, how many times after the first play did the fullback get the ball?
Well, one of them was a fumble, so technically I guess he didn't get the ball because he didn't take
Never had
the
the
handoff.
opportunity.
And I think there were a couple more runs after that with the fullback. I think it'll be interesting to see what we actually implement for an offense. You know what I mean? How they're going to move around, what they're going to do. I don't know.
Dude, that fullback was so small, it looked like we got him from Deion Sanders.
Oh, don't worry, we're gonna get there.
Was it Jammeron Bonner was a fullback on the fumble? But yeah, they're basically tight ends lining up at fullback, and I imagine they're going to move around, and you know what I mean. We're going to see a lot of shifting. I don't know. That's what I mean. I guess the other thing I would take away from a spring game is we saw an offense that people were still trying to learn and really didn't have a great handle on. So,
and that's fair. And part of that is, new staff, new system. Part of that is, transfer portal acquisitions. And look, we're going to talk about some of the transfer portal departures. And then, don't worry, we're going to get there. We're going to talk about Colorado. But it's just going to take time. And how are you supposed to learn to – because correct me if I'm wrong. I trust both of you with this knowledge more so than myself. Like football, the off-season is here. So you can do maybe some lifting and things like that, but you can't like have practice and run plays, right? I mean, like they're not to say they had to hand playbooks back, right? But what are the rules now that spring ball's over?
Probably, I don't know the exact rule. This is why you need a Pat Jansen. So, but I think that it's something like, if I remember correctly, like basically no organized practices and stuff. But like Duvall had his brother up there, in Omaha running that whatever. And I'm sure there's going to be stuff like that going on where they can still, get together and work. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just maybe Matt Rhule can't. I wish I'm just bullshitting.
You know what? We have new stuff now. They have Huddle, that company.
Yep.
You guys familiar with Huddle? Well, what they will probably do is they will give all of these players get like tape or plays or things that they can look at in Huddle and say, you guys need to get together and practice X, Y, Z. So they can't be with them to coach them, but they probably could still they can. Well, I know they're going to do the huddle thing. Okay, that's what you're going to do during the off season. Is guys are still probably getting together to practice stuff, and the coaches will put stuff on huddle for them to look at and get familiar with.
Also, if I was a betting man, I would bet that they're going to illegally have practices.
Whoa!
Do
you think they'll videotape them this time?
I don't think they'll be that stupid because they're not drunk idiots.
Fred says we're in good shape. The team didn't have organized practices the last 5 years.
That's a good point.
You know what's crazy though? As much as it's fun to shit on Scott Frost, I just think he was in over his head. If I remember when Big Ten came to the first practice that the Big Ten came to under Scott Frost, they said was the most organized they'd seen at Nebraska, that there wasn't a minute wasted. Like when they would put the balls away, I remember them specifically saying they would do like the West Coast weave to get the balls back. So like they were even practicing those little things that never really come up. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't think Scott Frost wasn't trying. I think he was just in over his head and got a little too drunk, a little too much.
That's as good an assessment of the Frost era that I think we're going to have. Well, 5-10 years from now, somebody's going to write a book. That's going to happen.
They already wrote a comic book or something about him, right? Or didn't they have something from the Omaha World Herald?
Aftermath.
Right. You mean less sunshine pumping?
Yeah, there was a comic book, and then there was a book I saw at the Nebraska bookstore. There was one copy left of the Omaha book about the Scott Frost returning home, guy from the heartland kind of thing.
So Josh says, and I think kind of piggybacking on what you said, Tweedy, and also what John and Todd were talking about Monday night, I think Scott came in and was pumped. Then so much weird shit happened, and he found out it wasn't easy, and he checked out. Going back to, I've said this for a couple of years, and again, I'm not trying to, make excuses, but since Todd brought it up, and Todd definitely would never make excuses, he talks about that Akron game that was supposed to kick off the 2018 season. I
feel like that game, I don't know, it was like the best. If somebody said describe the Scott Frost tenure, I think you can just play what didn't happen of the Akron game, like the hour waiting up for the game. Just play and be like, that's the Scott Frost tenure. Just a lot of waiting, and then boof, nothing.
Yeah. All right, we've got back to back. I do want to turn the page, close the discussion on Frost, but two things. One is comedic and one is a serious question. So we'll start with Fred first. It says, in 15 years, they'll bring him back at the spring game to name the margarita machine and the paternity suit hideout room for him. And then Cornborn Mike says, what was so different from Frost's time at UCF in the Big Ten that he couldn't get it together? And look, I'm very curious to see how the next few years go in Boulder, Colorado, because we could say a very similar thing about Deion Sanders. They're not equitable leagues.
No, I don't think so. Tweedy, answer that question.
They're not the same thing.
No, I mean, answer that guy's question. Why do you think he did it at UCF and he couldn't get it together?
So first of all, everybody acts like that they went from like 1-11 to undefeated in one season or whatever, which I mean on paper is true. But that team that he had 2 years prior won a shit ton of games. So it's not, I mean, it was just the coach lost them the season before. So he had players. And then Joel Tilson's right, it's an easier conference in general. And if Scott Frost gets all the people from Florida to stick around and not transfer out before they ever play a snap at Nebraska, he likely has a different outcome. You can go down the street and get some 3-star from some Florida high school that's faster than everybody on the Huskers team. Look at Dwight Boodle. He's the prime example of that. He was like a 2-star. But he was so fucking fast. You can't coach that. You get a bunch of those guys on your team, man, and that's what he did at UCF. And also we had to do it with one hand. We needed to do it with one hand. Get to do it with one hand.
He was really good.
Yeah, I know. It was dope. We need a dude that's got one hand and is really good at football.
I think he just came back to Nebraska and fell back into being after a while, he just fell back into I'm 20 all over again, and I get to do whatever I want and become a frat boy all over again, and I'm Scott Frost, and people would just fall out of the way and want to see me as some savior, and I really don't have to work hard at this. And I think it's you have to work hard at this part that probably did him in.
And dude, if a handful of plays go differently,
yeah,
I mean, we're talking a handful of plays, he's still here, and he's won a shit ton of games. Like,
and the narrative is very different.
Very different. 24 plays go differently.
That's more than a handful.
But over 5 years, it's not.
Yeah,
Look,
there wasn't really a game. There wasn't really a game that we weren't in under Frost. He just didn't know how to win. It was the intangibles. It was the little things. It was it was like what was between their ears. They didn't have someone. Scott Frost is not a bad coach. He will do well somewhere else, just not here.
What do you think about this quote from Matt Rhule that Josh shared with us? Bad teams do bad things.
Well, it's true.
It's true. That's why they're bad teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like green is green because it's green.
It's a mix of blue and yellow. These two primary colors, they come together in a very synergetic way. All right, let's talk a little bit more about the spring game, and we're almost 50 minutes into this thing. We've not even scratched the surface on Colorado, and I know what everybody's thinking. This is a Husker podcast. I don't hear. No, we're not. We just want to make fun of them. That's all we want to do. We do the same with Iowa, except nobody cares about Iowa to report on their transfer portal departures. So Fred says, in regards to Saturday at the spring game, the offense ran more shotgun and tempo than I thought they would, not as much deliberate huddle like Satterfield evangelized. And here we go. Matt Hansen says, this is a more broad question. Why do you think Nebraska's neglected the offensive line through so many years and through different coaches?
Because offensive linemen are hard to get.
Yeah,
every coach out there would love to have 30 offensive and defensive linemen that can play football. And they're hard to get. In order to get those people, you have to go out and recruit your ass off. You can't just go, hey, could you come to our school, and then have them show up? And that's really what it was. I mean, Mike Raleigh wasn't known for his recruiting prowess. And, that other guy pretty much didn't do.
Yeah, there's some good recruiting classes, but they all left. Because even if you have great recruiting classes, if there's no substance, they're not going to stick around, which is going to lead right into the next topic you want to talk about eventually. But that's what you're going to see in Colorado. You can have all the talent you want, but if there's nothing between the ears and there's no leadership, you're going to have. It doesn't matter how good your recruiting classes are.
Josh makes an interesting point. He's a Nebraska native. Fullbacks, tight ends, and offensive linemen can be grown in Nebraska. That's the body types we have. Takes time, though.
Well, we used to rely on farmers. We used to rely on them dudes from Crofton and Beamer. But those guys, they do everything with it's not the same as before. Farm boys aren't built like they were 30 years ago, man.
It's all because farming is not the same industry that it was 30 years ago.
Right.
It's all been technologically advanced. And I know this because my brother-in-law and his whole family farms, and like my nephew who is 14 was driving the tractor. He's like, no, it's all done by computers. I said, oh.
Yeah. You know what the deal is? Nobody's laying pipe anymore. That's what the frickin' deal is.
Tweedy, you missed it last week. John was regaling us with tales of how he used to lay pipe when he was younger. And it wasn't until after we were done, it was John, myself, and Aaron Rostovsky from CornNation.com. We told him our generation definition of laying pipe. Because John's over there like, I used to lay pipe with my father-in-law.
Well, and a whole bunch of guys and some girls too.
They'd be out there with their shirts off in the sun, sweaty, laying pipe.
Laying pipe at? Excuse me.
On fields?
Oh, okay.
What the hell?
Hey, you get the right people, you can lay pipe anywhere you want. All right. Real quick, while we were talking about Jeff Sims, we were talking about Casey Thompson. Owen Walker says, can Sims be a poor man's Vince Young?
I think that's a good. I think that's exactly what he could be.
Let me follow that up with like, do we want a poor man's Vince Young? Like, because Vince Young was awesome in college, but he sure as hell tanked in the NFL.
He's
Who
the
gives
Kanye
a shit
West
about
of
the
football.
NFL.
The Kanye West.
I don't care about the NFL. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, agreed.
Well, we're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to that.
Vince Young was the poor man's Tommy Frazier.
There you go. So now we're getting the desperately poor man's Tommy Frazier, and you know what? They'd be all right. Let's see what happens.
We're getting a homeless Tommy Frazier.
Wow.
You know what? If that quote is taken out of context somewhere, we're gonna have a lot more listeners next week. All right. Well, we're definitely going to talk about the mercenary impact. Cornborn Mike, you've got a great question here. I'm going to save, I think, for the very end. But let's talk about attrition. We knew it was coming, for weeks. We've talked about, how many scholars or how many players we had and how many we had to get down to, and the
transfer portal.
Yeah, but I was going to say like the analysis that the coaches were. Shut up. It was announced earlier this week, I believe Tuesday, that Richard Torres is entering in the transfer portal.
Who?
Yep.
Richard Torres, quarterback, Nebraska.
Never heard of her.
Well, it's a him.
Dick Torres.
He didn't play.
He played in the spring game.
Well, yeah, but he didn't play. He didn't get on the field.
He did not.
In 2 years, he really didn't get on the field. So,
but he was one that a lot of people were very interested in.
Yeah, but because your other options were Herberger and Logan Smothers, who I think is gonna. I'm actually gonna miss Logan Smothers.
Somebody asked that earlier.
Is he officially gone?
Playing for Nebraska. Blaine Cole that's really good. Playing for Nebraska was a choice. Kanye West. That's a underrated thing right there.
There we go. Got to highlight that for you, Blaine. We did have, Blaine, speaking of back-to-back Blaine here, will anyone be missing Logan Smothers? John, you will.
Well, Ryan Tweedy just said he would be.
Oh, okay.
I definitely will be.
I won't be.
You would tell us why.
No, I did. I just don't think he was going to play at Nebraska at all. I hope that he goes somewhere where he can find peace and love and time on the field as a quarterback. So
there you go. Peace, love, and time.
I'm always interested in the guys that are still here. How's that for a good chummy?
I don't think Logan Smothers I think if he had a better staff or went somewhere where they could have utilized him, I think he could have been so. I had super high hopes for Logan Smothers coming out the gate, and it's too bad. Yeah, agreed. McCaffrey, man. McCaffrey should have been a stupid wide receiver. Why? Yeah,
let's read that. Logan should have got, this is from Josh, Logan shoulda, Josh, it is not a word, should have got a shot instead of Bonehead McCaffrey. Just bummed at how that was handled. Yeah, I agree. McCaffrey had so much upside. I mean, we'll get there. He's not the only one we'll talk about, but he transferred twice in one offseason.
Yeah.
It's not a good look.
I don't even know where he is now.
Wait, who did?
McCaffrey.
Luke McCaffrey. He went to Louisville and then later went down to Rice in the same offseason.
Wow. He could have been a receiver in the NFL.
Could have been a running back in the NFL.
He's a little small for that, don't you think?
Yeah, they get that vitamin S, right?
Well,
we got to talk about that. All right, I had one here from Fred.
Wandell would have been and Washington.
Mo Washington. Yeah, a lot of opportunity there that, we couldn't help them, they couldn't, help us. But Fred agreed with you. Most of the guys leaving in the portal to echo Tweedy. Who? We had to lose some guys to get to the limit anyway, so it is what it is. And I don't disagree with the sentiment. Again, when you got to get down to a certain number, we
still have another 8 to 10 to go.
Yeah, it's not the end yet. All right, so let's move to our neighbors to the west, shall we? Joel asks, is anyone getting tired of primetime?
Oh, not me. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you really?
Oh, God. I want more.
Why?
Because I hate him so much.
Why do you hate him? He's just a guy trying to make his way through the world.
Oh, is he? He's a millionaire? Dude, this guy rents a Lambo, okay? He rents a Lambo and then buys offensive linemen Louis Vuitton bags and has them stand in front of it. Are you kidding me? What are we doing?
It's Flash.
It's all sizzle, no steak. Colorado had their spring game, Saturday, just like Nebraska, and Dion was wearing a white cowboy hat, and I believe the quote that he made after is like, "You see this white cowboy hat? This isn't my first rodeo."
That dude has never been to a rodeo.
He never. So Josh, I believe in the comments said, what are we up to as far as transfer portal departures? I actually have a graphic.
To go back to that last thing real quick, is anybody getting tired of it? I kind of getting tired of Nebraska fans being fascinated with Colorado, but at the same time, I'm thinking, it's freaking not even May, and they're going to build the Nebraska-Colorado game up into this, mega, meeting of two teams trying to find themselves.
Dude,
what? What?
Okay, please. You have the Corn Nation has a big reach. This is what I really want, okay? I want Husker fans to buy all the tickets to that game. And then when Prime comes out, silence.
We'll
Nothing
get it out
will get
there.
under his skin more than on his first game at home, he came out to silence.
To no reaction. Yep.
Not boos. Boos are just
what
as
if
good
we
as
hum?
cheers to him.
What if we hum?
No, I want to hear a pin drop. I want there to be like 13 Colorado fans who are like, yeah.
Well, the way Nebraska fans invade, road trip, there might only be 13 Colorado fans. But if there are 13 Colorado fans, that means there's going to be 26 pee-filled balloons. So, all right, well, let's get to it. Thank you for that, John. This is from earlier today. Colorado quarterback Nigel Bethel entered the NCAA transfer portal, the 55th Buffalo to enter the portal this offseason. 55.
But honestly, they were the last team in the division, so in the country, right? Like, they won in 11. Who gives a shit? They should all go.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this.
There is that.
They're bringing in talent. Like, I don't have these screenshots because, again, it's not a Colorado podcast, but they're bringing in like cornerbacks, defensive backs from Florida State, linemen from Tennessee. I just feel kind of going back to that mercenary line or word I used earlier. Like these are guys who are coming in they're why
there's no money. There's no money there.
There's no money.
No money at college.
Yeah,
Okay, not from
money.
no NIL money.
Well,
I mean, they're not even going to pay Dion. They're getting all these promises that they're not going to be fulfilled. They're not going to be fulfilled, and then they're all going to come in with no practice until fall ball or whatever.
Right.
I mean, it's going to be a shit show, and TCU is going to beat the pants off of them so bad.
Oh,
it's going to be insane. And the hype, I can't wait. I can't wait. I hate it so much. I hate him so much.
I love it. Thank you, Tweety, for being here. So they had a standout player at Colorado's spring game, and it is Montana Lemonius Craig. He had 3 catches, 2 touchdowns, 156 yards, something like that. And the next day he entered the transfer portal. If you're watching this with us, I mean, you can see the schools that have reached out to him since he entered the portal. You have Auburn, Penn State, West Virginia, Mississippi State, Cal, BYU, Iowa, Penn State, Arizona State, Arkansas, Washington State, Northern Colorado, I think, or Colorado State. I can't remember. Where's Patrick? He would know that stuff. And I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. We heard there was a player who was entering the transfer portal, and this is kind of what I want to talk about. There was a player from Colorado entering the transfer portal who says, "Sorry, I can't provide any tape. They won't let me have access to any of my practice tape, things like that." I think, and the reason I'm bringing that up is I think Matt Rhule's approach is different. I think Matt Rhule maybe went out of his way to get some guys onto the field on Saturday to give them a little game tape if he knew, like, hey, we don't have a spot for you, but we're going to get you a few opportunities on the field, see what you can put out there so that maybe another team can see what you can do.
I see what's going on here.
Okay.
I see what is going on here. It didn't occur to me until just now what this is. This is, in the good old days when I was young and everything, when we played Nebraska and Oklahoma, we played Oklahoma. It wasn't that we just wanted to beat Oklahoma because they were Oklahoma. It was our morality, our goodness against their evil.
That's what it always is,
and
right?
That's what this is now, isn't it? The Colorado thing.
I think it's different.
We do everything right. We do everything right, and they're just a bunch of evil pot smoking hippie bastards. I'm not a hippie just because I have long hair.
But that's like, there was a respect. We had respect for Barry Switzer.
We didn't for a while. We respected him more after he was gone. For a while.
I heard that too, Tweety. What's a wow?
I mean, come on, 1986
Is that related
and 1987,
to WAP?
People hated his guts, hated him because of what he represented. He cheated all the time. He paid his players. They had cars. Our players were good, wholesome, nice kids.
Oh, yeah?
They didn't have cars at all.
Yeah, they were really good, wholesome, nice kids, huh?
We
asked Miss Nebraska about that, Miss Nebraska 1994 about that, or what are we doing?
That's what our mentality is. Isn't that what's going on with Colorado? That's why we're more fascinated with beating Colorado, even though Minnesota is a way more important game as the first game of the season.
So why do we hate Iowa? Iowa isn't more. I mean, or you could argue that Iowa probably has a little bit moral high ground than we do, just because they suck so bad. They're clearly not cheating.
Yeah, but they have nepotism.
Yeah, so, but I mean,
we always frown on nepotism.
I love that Iowa has nepotism. They keep hiring.
We hate Iowa. We hate Iowa because, well, nobody likes Iowa. Let's be honest. I mean,
true.
honestly,
Yeah, but we don't like them for different reasons, you know.
Look, but
Minnesota hates him. Wisconsin hates him.
Oh, here we go. Josh says we hate Iowa because their corn is terrible and they suck, but talk shit with an empty trophy case.
Yeah.
Plus, there's that.
Their best team ever beat our worst team ever by 3 points. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I think with Colorado, it's as much like the quote unquote moral high ground as it is just they're horrible people who look. Do you have to stand there and clap for the opposing team when they run off the field at the end? Do you have to be overly friendly, with opposing fans? No, but you don't have to be assholes. And I think that's from the stories.
But it's
that
also
are out there.
really easy to It's easy. It's really easy to be great fans when you lose 3 games in 5 years and you have 5 national championships in 20 years or 15 years, whatever, 20 years. So it's very easy to be great fans. I'm not a great fan. Yeah. I'm a shitty fan. I'm a shitty fan.
No, he's a shit talking fan.
I talk so much shit.
And this is the guy, by the way, I believe you can still get it, but this is the guy who made the documentary Through These Gates.
Yeah, because I found it fascinating. People think that I made it as look at it
tribute,
like a love letter.
It is a love letter. I mean, yeah, it is a love letter. But I wasn't. People thought that I was one of those guys. No, I just always thought it was fascinating that people were that we were like that. I was never like that. I was never one of those cheers the winner goes by bullshit. I mean, I'm not if you beat me, you beat me, and I'm all right, you win, good job, But I'm not I'm not doing that.
John, read this one from Fred.
Why?
Because
Fred
I want to see if he can
says,
still read.
Fred Sacco says, was in a Council Bluffs bar, I assume, a year ago. Iowa fan tried to make fun of me. I said, Iowa, not to be rude, but Iowa's nothing to us. They beat us, but are still irrelevant, so really fuck Iowa.
I really wish you would have said that with some gumption.
I think that, number one, Iowa's black and gold, and we have a tradition of having, Missouri was supposed to be a rival, and Colorado was supposed to be a rival, and I think it's fun to hate Iowa. I really do. I enjoy it.
The reason Iowa, I think, sucks, the reason I think that people refuse to accept Iowa as a rival is because I'm not going to do it just because Hy-Vee said so.
Well, there's that. That's
I'm not, you don't get to tell me what to do, Hy-Vee. I'll tell you who my rival is, and it's not Iowa.
Well, who is it then?
Alabama.
I
want Bama.
You're still about that 38-6 Orange Bowl win in 1969.
I don't want a corporation to tell me who my rival is.
I agree.
Wisconsin's a better rival, honestly.
Northwestern
is a better rival.
Yeah. Colin J. By the way, Colin J. arrived late and wanted us to start the show over, but we're glad that Colin's still with us. But Colin says, Tweedy, you're my favorite psychopath.
Thanks, bud.
And then this one from Josh a minute ago says, in 2003, now remember where we were as a country in 2003, in the global landscape. In 2003, my mother said if Colorado played Al-Qaeda, she didn't know who she'd root for.
Good mom right there.
Yeah, she raised a winner. All right, so let's get back real quick because Joel says, how long before Dion moves on from Colorado?
I think how long before Colorado moves from Dion?
I was going to say the same thing.
No, I disagree. I think here's the thing, that you need to take this perspective about Deion Sanders. The previous coach to Colorado was who that went to Michigan State?
Mel Tucker.
And how many games did he win?
At Colorado?
Yeah.
Over what, 2 seasons?
No.
1 season.
1 season.
Was it
how
8?
Many games? No.
7.
No.
6, 5, 4.
No, 5. He won 5 games at Colorado, and Michigan State not only brought him there, but the next year after he did fairly well in getting in the transfer portal, they gave him a massive contract. So I think I look at Deion Sanders and I go, what is Deion Sanders doing? Well, if Deion Sanders brings in all these players and he wins 4 games, somebody out there is going to go, he did that all in 1 year. Maybe we'll take a chance on him too. So I think Deion Sanders just looks at Colorado and said, "This
Stepping
is a
stone.
springboard." Yeah, well, it's a perspective.
If he does it all in 1 year, if he wins 5 games next year, he could land himself in Lincoln.
That'll never happen.
Well, he could land himself there if he wants to fly there, and we play him again somehow. But
I think that he's going to implode. If I could write out exactly what I think is going to happen, it's going to be they get their assholes ripped apart by TCU. Like, I'm talking like ripped apart.
Like the connection tissues.
Out, like can't play football anymore. They're going to 70-3 type shit. And then they're going to come to Nebraska. They're going to be beat up. You're talking about people that don't really have a game plan, a coach that's all ego, and then they're going to lose to Nebraska. And once you lose 2 in a row, it's off to the races. And then they're just going to get beat and beat and beat and beat and beat. And then you're going to see Dion start talking shit and blaming the athletic department on how they're not paying him and they're not doing this. And you're going to see all this bad blood between those two. And then Dion is gone. And because Dion's always been like that.
Yeah, yes.
I mean, it's this like even when he played in the NFL, he wasn't like an upstanding guy. He was a mercenary. He got into a fight with Andre Rison, his former teammate.
I love the wordplay by Blancola. Prolapse in judgment.
A prolapse in judgment, indeed.
I think it was Josh here who said, right on, John. Another reason he wants all the transfers fast, get in and get out.
What if he's successful?
Then he's just he would be able to have a bigger price tag to his next place, where they may actually be able to pay him.
I think if he's successful, he's probably going to go to Florida State, right?
So
they might be due by then. Who is their coach? Jay Norville right now?
Yeah, my buddy's a big Florida State fan, and he was like, we don't want him.
No.
But if he wins, if he does well, I think they might want him.
Right.
It's prime time Neon Dion. I mean, the spotlight's not too big for him, like for his personality, but I think the job may be. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. I also think that he doesn't realize that he's old now. Like, kids don't know who he is. They don't give a shit. It's like if you ask a kid,
But he's always been on TV, though, right? I mean, like he was an analyst or on the pregame or postgame on one of the CBS or NBC NFL programs.
Yeah, but so is Troy Aikman. And ask most kids how they feel about Troy Aikman. They're going to be like, who?
Gosh, how old are we?
Old.
Oh, whatever.
John, I have almost as much gray hair as you, and that's not – never mind. It's not counting my nips that I heard about earlier in the show. Thanks for that, Tweedy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's close the book. Not close the book. Let's at least turn the page and stop talking about Deion Sanders. Cornborn Mike had a really thought-provoking question earlier on in the show, so he's still here. I just saw his new comment, so I'm glad he's here for this one. Cornborn Mike wants to know, and this might be a good way to end the show unless the answers are yes, no, or something quick. Cornborn Mike says, will Matt Rhule be the next Bob Devaney?
I want Matt Rhule to be the next Matt Rhule. I don't want to try to put anything on him. I don't want him to be the next Tom Osborne. I certainly don't want to be the next Tom Osborne. I don't want him to be the next Bob Devaney. I want him to do what it is that he needs to do to win without any of these weird labels. Husker fans do this to every coach, and the more we do it, the more pressure it puts on them, and more pressure it puts on the players, and it becomes this weird old thing. That's what I don't want. So I hope not. But I do hope he'll win like Devaney, just in his own way.
John?
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo what he says. We do that to a lot of people. I mean, and I get it. We want, we need to label them so we can identify them. But I mean, if you watch the spring game, I think the two things you come away with that I think are obvious, and that's Jeff Sims was a lot better than anybody expected, and two, if we lose any offensive linemen to injury, I because of the status of the offensive line, I think if you thought somebody was a lunatic that thought we were going to go 12-0 this season, you probably would just want to go 6-6, and anything after that is gravy.
John, who did I say would win the spring game?
the Frank Solich.
I said Nebraska would win the spring game.
Well, did we though? Did we? 6 fumbles?
Well, wait,
John.
Let me ask you this. Who lost the spring game?
Shut up, Tweedy. That's not the question I'm asking right now. I'm 1 for 1 so far, so let's not ruin my streak, all right? I realize it's not a streak with just one limited data. I'll say this. Going back to Frank Solich, when he was the head coach, the anointed one, he was the hand-selected heir to Tom Osborne. Then you had Bill Callahan, who came in with the NFL Super Bowl, attendee
and was
pedigree.
Out by the boosters and the fans before he was really given a fair shake.
Then you had Bo Pelini, who had a little bit of time at Nebraska, was a defensive coordinator, national champion defensive coordinator. And then you had Mike Riley, who had no...
Mike Riley is the Joe Biden of college football.
Okay.
He is. That's a good explanation.
But there was no title or hype given to Mike Riley. Mike Riley was the lemon sorbet after, to cleanse the palate from the previous entree. And then you had the golden boy. So you're right. With Matt Rhule, and Tweety, to your point, we're getting into that habit, or we've been in that habit of too much hype, or putting these titles on these coaches. Like you said, let him be Matt Rhule. Let him do what worked. He's already implementing what has worked. He's ingratiated himself with the high schools, with the coaches. He's reconnected Nebraska and Texas. And he stands at a podium and doesn't sound like he's got a brain tumor. So all things are God bless you. All things are moving in the right direction, I feel.
Yeah.
Bill Callahan was run off by the boosters and not given a fair shake?
Yeah.
What the hell?
He won. He went 10-2.
He didn't go 10-2.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did. If he would have just gotten his defensive coordinator.
No.
He was the last. Yes.
No.
Yes.
He was incapable of leading a team.
No. He had
Yes.
a bad defensive coordinator that refused to fire. He had the same problem and then he brought in a quarterback. He lived and died by his defensive coordinator and his quarterback. Sound familiar?
His problems were much bigger than his defensive coordinator. That's why he's a position coach in the NFL.
He would score 50 points and still somehow lose.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like an offense problem.
No, listen, there's a reason why he's a position coach in the NFL and has stayed a position coach. It's because he's incapable of leading a group of people.
What do you mean he won a Super Bowl as a head coach?
I don't think, didn't he lose?
Oh, he
lost.
He lost.
He lost.
Yeah. And he killed the Raiders. Because he couldn't make a decision. Didn't their center go missing the night before the Super Bowl? Because the night before the Super Bowl, Bill Callahan basically told him, I'm going to change the entire game plan that they'd worked on. And the guy just was like, oh, I have to make all the fucking line calls and I can't take this. And he basically took off. And the reason for that is because Bill Callahan was one of those guys that when everything's good, he's there to talk about it and take all the stuff. But when everything turns into shit, he's one of those guys that starts.
Is so bad. He went 9-5, not 10-2.
I was gonna say. I was gonna gently correct you, but that's all right.
I know a lot of people have the attitude about Bill Callahan's defense with Kevin Cosgrove, but I think it's just much deeper than that.
I mean,
if he'd listen, I think the biggest game that represented that whole era with Bill Callahan was that game we played against Texas, and we were beating them until the fourth quarter when they suddenly accidentally ran a zone read and made a bunch of yards. And then it was like their guys go, oh my God, they can't defend the zone read, which everybody on the fucking planet knew that. And then they ran up like 300 yards in the fourth quarter, came back and beat the shit out of us. And all I could think about in that game is Kevin Cosgrove could never defend those spread offenses. And why in the hell didn't
defend anything? You sucked.
Yeah, he was terrible. He was a good Big Ten 3 yards in a cloud of dust guy. Okay.
I like this one from Blaine. Cole says the only two good things I could say about Callahan, he beat Michigan and he's gone.
I mean, honestly, rate him, rank him. How do you rank him?
Who?
Let's say Osborne for 3, then Devaney, then who? Pelini?
Wait, what? How far back are we going?
I'm just since you've been alive, John.
All right, let me go all the way back here to 1899.
Well, I mean, you're looking at Jumbo Steam and things like that people know.
Or you know what? Let's start at Pelini. Let's make it more interesting. Let's start at Pelini. Or let's start at Solich. Rate him.
I'd probably put, out of the coaches we've had, including Frank Solich, I'd put Bob Pelini at the top of those coaches.
Agreed. Then who?
Probably Frank.
Then who? Now's where it gets weird, right?
Then Bill. Oh, God.
Top 3, isn't he?
I'd say Frank, Pelini, then Callahan, then Riley, then Frost.
Yeah.
I take Frost over Riley.
I'll say this. It might be because he had, Bo Pelini's leftovers, but Mike Riley actually made it to a bowl game and won.
Well, he didn't, though.
Well, 2015.
Yeah, but that bowl game, wasn't that? Oh, no, that was the 9. Didn't he? Who got into a bowl game that didn't deserve to be there? Was that Frost? No,
that was Riley. Okay. I mean, they finished the season 6 and 7, but I'll stand by that bowl game because I remember I watched that bowl game in the NICU with my boy who was just a couple days old. I watched that on my little iPad, so it's special to me. Damn it!
Oh my God, it's really. I guess when you do that, Tweedy, it's kind of horrifying. There was no curse. We're just really bad at hiring people. That's the curse.
Also, if you look at Bo and you look at Callahan and you look at Frost, what were the major problems? They married quarterbacks that they shouldn't have, and they had bad defensive coordinators.
I saw this.
Pelini was his own defensive coordinator.
What was Papuchis?
Come on.
He was the defensive coordinator.
No, he was by name.
Once Carl Pelini left,
it really went downhill. I'll say this. I was reminded of, I watched this game live, so I have the memories very vivid. It was a New Year's Bowl. In fact, I think it might have been Nebraska's last New Year's Bowl. It was the 2014 Gator Bowl against Georgia, and the video, the clip that popped up was the 99-yard touchdown to Quincy Enunwa. But you look at where Georgia went from in the last decade, 9 years, whatever, and Nebraska. give me that January 1st loss and put us back in a couple national championship games. I'd have taken that switch. But we have, like, we were here, both at 8-4. This is Nebraska. This is Georgia. It's not fair. Football sucks.
Football's awesome, dude.
I know. I was kidding. Caring about it sometimes sucks. Caring about it so much.
I think that Matt Rhule is going to. I think he's going to be a good. He's doing it all right. The one thing about him I don't like is the whole placating to the fan base with the fullback bullshit.
I gotta hit this from Terry. Terry is as close as anybody to John's age. Terry admits that we've become so irrelevant that even at age 70, I only watched 3 games last year. I turned on the channel to watch alone and watch people shoot squirrels.
There's more on TV than that.
There are other options, yeah.
I will never turn a Husker game off, but I will leave the room.
I figure.
Yeah.
I figure since I do the show, I probably need to watch the game. That's
true.
just me. I'll tell you what's really fun. Try this sometimes. You're going to miss out on the Twitter or the Slack party at the very beginning. But if you come in about an hour in, you can fast forward through all the commercials if you've DVR'd it. That's amazing.
You got one more pinned comment.
You do. You pinned it. Josh says the real curse was Perlman and Eichhorst.
And Peterson.
Now, why is Harvey Perlman in this?
I think Josh just got confused. Josh said he was tired earlier.
Well,
now,
Perlman also, though, because he was kind of anti-football.
He was anti-Pelini.
He was anti-Pelini for sure.
Okay, well, when your head coach is acting like a jackass on the sideline and he's not winning that much, I mean, I can see why you'd get a little frustrated.
He won more games than anybody but Osborne.
No, he didn't win as much as Nick Saban. If you win as much as Nick Saban, you can act like Bo Pelini did on the sideline all day long.
I mean, I don't know, man. I think that Bo...
I don't understand why Harvey. Listen, we're an hour and a half into this, and I'll just go ahead and say this: people blame Harvey Perlman because they're not going to blame Tom Osborne for anything ever.
Agreed. I'm pointing at your picture on my computer.
Point to the camera; it's more effective.
Agreed.
I just think he's an easy scapegoat, and he got us into the Big Ten, and I think that was one of the best moves he's made in a long time. We haven't seen success, but our future is at least secure. For all of
our administration is, but as of right now, that move to the Big Ten only did nothing for us except for line the pockets of who I think is as big of a get, if not, and doesn't get the credit he deserves, is probably as big a get as Rhule. Trev Alberts.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He's an adult.
I think that was the other thing that was very apparent at the spring game is that somebody is in charge and they're doing things proactively, and they're, people won't like the changes. I'm sure that the people who have season tickets are going to find out that, oh my God, my season ticket I've sat in for 20 years is now, I have to move over here, and they're probably going to shit themselves. But the guy is making moves and he's doing things. And I think that those things are very important to move us ahead.
There are worse things on game day than the blue hairs being moved over 15 feet.
Matt Hansen says defending Perlman, that's interesting. I don't know if I'm defending Harvey Perlman as much as I'm saying, why does he get blamed for so much of this?
Because he sucks.
Well, I disagree with that. I think that was a good academic move. I realize if you don't give a shit about the university, Ryan.
I care about the university.
But why does he get all the blame and then Osborne gets zero?
I agree. Osborne should get a lot of blame. Osborne has done a lot to tank.
Man.
Do you think that it's done on purpose to secure his legacy?
Say that again?
Oh my God, that's a subject for another podcast. We're already an hour 30 into this.
What was the question?
Conspiracy theory. I don't believe it. I just stirring up shit more than anything. John doesn't want to be a part of this. So, do you think he's tanked it on purpose to keep his legacy, like keep himself atop the pedestal?
I don't think he's that good a planner.
I don't think he's that sinister.
Yeah, I don't think he's that sinister either. I think he did what he thought was right. I just think he was wrong.
I agree with that.
Last one here. Colin J says the real curse started after Josh Banderas stole that bike.
That is no shit right
there. Or what about when Avery Moss put his wiener up against the glass? I mean, it's, there's two.
Yeah, but what was she wearing?
Oh my God.
Nobody ever asked that question.
I don't think you're allowed. God. I don't think you're allowed to ask that question.
Oh, my bad.
All right. On that note,
dude, if every dude that pulled his wiener out at a 7-Eleven got kicked out of school, we would all be unemployed.
I would not. And I'll quote Futurama, which is a show I love dearly, and I'll only say, I'm a grower, not a shower.
I'm neither.
I'm just glad that people don't have cameras everywhere when I was young, and they don't report everything when I was young. I just say that. I'd tell you a story, but I think I'll leave it for another time.
Save that for next week. It's a long off season. We're here, and we appreciate all of you being here with us for the Five Heart Show. We do this now live every Thursday, 9 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock on the West Coast. And we are so appreciative that Ryan Tweedy is able to join us. So, Tweedy, thank you for being the new member.
Back.
It is great to have you here. So thank you to all of the viewers. Thank you to all the listeners who just catch the audio version. Let me tell you, if you're just listening to this on Friday or Saturday, you're missing a lot of fun. So catch it early, catch it live when we do this again Thursdays at 9 o'clock. So for Ryan Tweedy, for John Johnston, I'm Greg Mahochko. This is the Five Heart Podcast, and we remind each and every week that Five Heart is all the heart you need. John?
Go get it, Roger.
You want to try that one again?
No, I don't. Tweedy can take it.
Fear no more the heat of the sun, nor the furious winter's rages. Thou thy worldly tasks art done, home art gone, and ta'en thy wages. Golden lads and girls all must, as chimney sweepers come to dust.
Oh, I'm going to have to up my game.
All right, yeah, exactly. Go Big Red.
Good night, everyone.